vividly because the next part of this story I'll never forget. I had my first round win and got kicked out of the track the same day. Bill, these guys are flying up here, man. We're cheating and we can barely keep up. Yeah, don't shut down or try and street race on a hazmat route. That's bad. And that's when I realized instantly, when you bring street racers and street race cars to the track, class racers are just licking their chops, man, because they can see. I wasn't ready to have conversations with you on a podcast. There's a lot of different reasons why Billy and I would not see eye to eye. I had resigned myself to dying in the excavator or dying in that dump truck. I was gonna work until I died. I never wanted this. This was not I never wanted to be a YouTuber. It was the first thing I thought of in the morning. It was the last thing I thought of at night, was how to make my kid faster, how to make that truck do something better. And dude, I loved it.
All right, guys, if you haven't figured out, we got my friend Bill on today. He said I can't believe you've never sat down for a podcast at all.
No. I mean, I've sat down on maybe one or two of the kids' podcasts, but I try and just stay quiet as much as I can.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited to have a conversation with you because there's stuff that I've always been curious of that, I don't know, I was just always curious of it. And you have, I think a lot of times you get looped into obviously what the boys have going on, but you very much have your own story. And yeah, I think there's a lot that people could take from that.
Oh, I think you could probably do multiple.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stories.
So to turn back those wheels of time, what got you into drag racing anyway?
Watching my dad in that black 55 Chevy. He used to be the president of the 55, 6, and 7 Chevy Club. I think they were based out of Hebron. There was a Chevrolet dealer in Hebron, and they would have monthly meetings there.
Yeah.
And so my mom and dad were in the 55, 6, and 7 Chevy Club, and then they would rent National Trail Raceway like once a year to have a club race out there. And so my first memory of anything about racing was sitting in the stands at Trails and watching my dad run that 55. And the one day that I remember vividly is he got to the finals, and he had to run a motorcycle in the final.
All right.
And the motorcycle beat him. I think it was a bracket deal,
Yeah.
I was too young to understand what was going on, but I just knew that I was pissed off at that motorcycle,
Yeah, beat Dad.
Yeah. But, yeah, so that's what got my interest peaked.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's cool that, I mean, obviously your guys' house where you live now is super close to Trails, and I'm assuming where you grew up was super close as well.
Interesting. I bought my first car on my school bus route.
All right.
I bought my first house, the only house I've ever bought, on my school bus route. Kind of interesting there, but yeah.
What was your first car?
71 Nova.
All right.
Yeah. Actually, I had a 65 Chevelle before I had the 71 Nova, but the Chevelle I bought off my uncle for like $100. It was a 6-cylinder Power Glide, 65 Malibu 2-door hardtop, and it had a lot of rust and had a lot of problems, and that was like my first car to get started on, to wrench on something, And so I had that Chevelle, but it was in such bad shape you couldn't drive it on the road.
Yeah.
So, obviously you're going to drive it all summer. This is my only car, and I didn't want to drive a 65 Malibu in the salt. I'd get this old junk Nova,
That's funny.
Yeah. So that's how that came to be, and I remember every day on my school bus route there was a little girl that got on the bus at this one particular stop, not maybe 2 miles from our house where we live now. And the family that lived there, this little girl's dad was a Columbus police officer and actually worked with Vicky's dad, who was also a Columbus police officer. but they inherited this car, I think, from his mother or father when they passed away.
Yeah.
And it was a light green with a dark green interior 71 Nova, 6-cylinder Power Glide car. And it sat there in that driveway, kind of weeds growing up around it. They didn't drive it very much. They didn't really know what to do with it. And so I talked my dad into going down and offering money for it to see if it was for sale. And we got it bought for $150.
Dang, dude.
Yeah. And drove it home and drove it up and down Mom and Dad's driveway. My mom and dad live on a farm, and the driveway is probably, I don't know, quarter mile long. Man, I just drive that Nova up and down that drive. 'Cause I didn't have a license. You know, I was like 14, 15 years old. So I'd drive it up and down the driveway all day, you know. Back and forth, back and forth. So
probably as soon as you got your license, did you end up at trails? Not much longer?
It didn't take long.
Yeah.
It didn't take long. You know, the problem was it had a 6-cylinder Power Glide, so it was about powerless.
Yeah.
But long story short, my uncle had a 65 Impala sitting in what they called the hog lot over at the farm, over at my grandma and grandpa's place. And it was a white 4-door 65 Impala, and it had a V8 in it. It was a 283. And that was my very first small block Chevy. That was my first V8. That's, you know, my dad helped me rebuild it.
That's cool.
Yeah, we didn't have much money. We cut the ridge out of the cylinders and put standard bore pistons right back in it. I don't know how that thing didn't smoke or rattle, but I mean, but we didn't have much, you know. I think for Christmas I got a cam and lifter kit, like an Edelbrock cam and lifter kit, an intake and a carburetor, and so saved up for quite a while, and we freshened up a 283, and that was my first V8 car.
That's cool. How long did you drive that?
I drove that until my junior year of high school.
Okay.
So I drove it about 2 years, 2.5 years. Yeah.
Did you start bracket racing then, or was that later?
No, that was later. Because, you know, when I was young, my dad was, if it doesn't have a 4-speed in it,
yeah,
it ain't, you know, automatic.
Yeah.
You know, he was old school. If it didn't have a 4-speed in it, it wasn't nothing, you know. So we put a 4-speed in it, and of course it had a 308 open rear end in it, and the Muncie that was in it had like a 220 first gear, so it would go like 70 miles an hour in first gear.
Yeah, that thing.
You know. So, you know, it was just something to play with. That was my learning experience, you know, how to route plug wires and spray paint the firewall and the inner fenders, and, you know, the clear glass fuel filter that you get at Jegs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was always cool. If I had a little extra money, I'd go to the Sunoco station and get Sunoco 94 or whatever it was, and it was red, and that was a big deal, you know, because it smelled
red fuel.
good. Yeah, red fuel and the glass filter, and yeah, those were my first days.
What years would that have been?
God, 89, 90,
Okay.
91.
That's cool. It's funny. My dad, he still has his Corvette that he bought. He bought a 66 Vet new, and that was kind of his first deal. And luckily he kept it. We still got it. But yeah, it's 4-speed car, and then his 69 Camaro started off as a 4-speed car, and then like he really hated to put an automatic in it. Yeah. But you know, it's funny, like drag racing started out where the sticks were king, and then now it's definitely not like that.
So kind of funny story. So the car that I had in high school, my dad helped me paint it for prom one year because it was an ugly pea green. It was just terrible. And then I had actually put it in a ditch at one point and had a dark green nose on a pea green body. But Dad helped me paint it one year, and we made patch panels and kind of doctored the body up and painted it so I could take Vicki to prom in it.
I was getting ready to ask if it was Vicki, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, took Vicki to prom in it. And that car had some cancer, like in the quarter panels. The frame and the underside of the car was actually really good. But back at this time, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of money, and I really didn't have the wherewithal to restore the car or do anything. And I don't know, I just kind of lost interest in that car. I just thought it was junk because the quarter panels were so rusted. and I ended up scrapping that car. But I did keep the front subframe, and that's the subframe that's under the car I have now.
Oh, okay.
But funny story, I took it to the track, to trails on a regular Sunday, and it was my first time really trying to bracket race it. And it had the 4-speed in it. It was on a hard tire with, 308 rear end gear in it.
Everything wrong.
Everything wrong.
Yeah.
Everything you could do is wrong. And I can remember I was in the staging lanes at trails, and I got paired up with a guy that is in the points and does really well in the points. And I remember getting paired with him, and I was just having a good time. I was happy to be there. I'm like, good luck, And he's looking at this car, 4-speed on a hard tire, I'm sure he took it easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I racked this guy. I went dead on my dial in. And I
really?
Yeah. And he's like the points champion. And I don't know what happened. All I know is that I think it was $13.99 and faster. You had to have a blow-proof bell housing, and I didn't have one. I got tossed. Guess who tossed me? And he swears he doesn't remember.
Oh, it's Allison's dad.
Allison's dad came to me in the pits and said, hey, you don't have blow-proof bell housing.
Because he was the main tech guy at Trails forever. Yeah.
He swears he doesn't remember, but I do. And I remember vividly because the next part of this story I'll never forget. So I beat the points leader or the points champ. First round, he's out. And we didn't have buybacks back then, so he's just out till next weekend. And so I get tossed for not having a blow-proof bell housing. And I was kind of ticked off. That was my first introduction to politics, at least I felt, at a racetrack, So I get in the car, and I pull out the front gate, and I turn left, and I'm going down 40 and kind of going through the gears, And I make a right-hand turn to go down to the filling station where I would get race gas at. And I wound it up in first gear and jerked second gear real hard. And I broke the hub springs out of the center of the clutch disc. One of them came out and lodged in the clutch. And from that point on, I didn't have any clutch. It was engaged all the time. You couldn't disengage the clutch. So I drove it down, put a little bit of fuel in it, and then I drove it home without a clutch. I'd have to start it in gear and limp it home. But Jeff literally kicked me. He's like, you can't be out here doing this without a blowproof. It's got a clutch. All baloney. And like 5 minutes later, I blew the clutch disc apart in this thing. So it was at that point I took it back home, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put a Turbo 350 in this thing. And because obviously it only took me one time at the track to realize you got to have an automatic if you really want to play this game, the bracket racing game. So put an automatic in it. It's had an automatic in it ever since.
That first win was probably enough to get you hooked and
I had my first round win and got kicked out of the track the same day.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
That's
man. Yeah. So I'm just ecstatic and then just pissed off, I feel like I've been pissed off ever since.
So the grumpy old guy is Jeff's fault.
Yeah. So.
If he wouldn't have kicked you out that day, well, maybe if he wouldn't have kicked you out that day, he wouldn't have the fire to do it. I don't know. But that's how I got started. And that's why really I got started. Yeah. So you did then you were bound and determined to figure out how to bracket race.
Yeah.
And you did that.
Yeah. So I had a neighbor, this is fast forward, quite a few years, but I bought that car on my school bus route. And then the house that we live at now was also on our school bus route. And when we bought the house, right down the road from us, about a mile and a half or so, there was Steve Holman is his name. He's a pretty well-known bracket racer from where we're from. He and his wife raced, Paula. And he kind of took me under his wing and saw that, I was really into this. So it was a big deal to go down to Holman's house every day because they had a dragster and they had a beautiful like an Evening Orchid 68 Camaro,
Yeah.
big tire ladder bar car. And so he would kind of take me under his wing, and we'd talk shit and gossip about the local bracket bullshit. But I learned a lot from him, and, you know, growing up and racing where I did at the time that I did.
A lot of good racers up there.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was in the hotbed of the Dirty Dozen. You know, that was a big deal back then. The dozen that IHRA kicked out. And so.
It's funny, my dad won. So actually that jacket that's behind you, it's the 1988 Spring Nationals in Superstock, which happens at Trails. Yeah. So, we personally have a lot of great memories at that place. Some bad ones too, but yeah. But my mom was actually pregnant with me when my dad. Well, yeah, they didn't know. So yeah, that was my very first winter circle pick. Just didn't know. They didn't know I was there. Yeah,
that's awesome.
But
that's really cool.
It's it is cool. So I like going back, and it's cool now that we know you guys. Like, been to your house a few times, and I don't show up unannounced, you know.
Dude, we just had somebody yesterday banging on the back door at like 7:30 in the morning. Oh. Dogs are going nuts, and it was an older guy. We didn't answer the door, but he's got his phone out. He's like filming everything, and
I told Billy one time we were talking, I'm like, you should. I said, I could see your parents going and buying another house if this deal keeps rolling. And then that house is just like a tourist attraction.
Oh,
like you can set up a gift shop.
Pay for tours. That's where I have my coffee in the morning.
You know, I'm not going to be here forever, so I'm just trying to. I'm trying to make sure that the kids have some place, that's set up nice. Like, I've done a lot of work on that place, a lot of excavating and drainage work, and because when we moved in there was just a circle driveway, one car wide, and the rest of that was not there. You know, so I've done a lot of work on that place to make room for trailers and, you know, room to swing trailers and trucks and park. And God, I can't imagine how many thousands of tons of stone I hauled in there, single axle dump truck load at a time.
Yeah, that's time consuming. How'd you get into the excavating deal?
So my first real job out of high school, I started working for the village of Pataskala, which is where I really grew up. My dad was the street department superintendent, and he was the only full-time employee. It was just a small village. But one service that they offered was in the fall, they would vacuum your leaves up. If you'd sweep them out, rake them to the edge of the curb, the village would send my dad and a helper to go suck leaves up. Sucked. It was like the worst job.
I'm super allergic to leaves too. It wouldn't be a good job for me.
And so every year they would hire a seasonal helper just to do leaf pickup. And so they were looking for somebody, and somebody in the offices mentioned to my dad one day, hey, do you think your son would like to help do leaves this year? And I'll ask him. So Dad brought me in, and I was supposed to be laid off by December, before Christmas. It was just a temporary month and a half, 2-month deal.
Yeah.
And during that time, they had another guy there that worked full-time or part-time kind of ish, and he didn't want to do leaves. He had done it one season, and he didn't want to do it again.
He was like, I'm out of here.
I'm out. So then it was just me and my dad. And everybody liked me and got along really good, and it was a really, really cool time, getting to work with my dad like that. So
it probably means more now than it did then.
Yeah. Yeah. And, things were different back then, but it was a much smaller hometown feel then than what it is now. But, the firehouse was right there in downtown, and we knew all the firemen, and God, they all knew me. Jeez and crackers. Firemen are the worst, man. When you're 17 years old, you don't know anything, and firemen know everything. And when they're not on a run, their full-time job is to pick at each other and pick at anybody, and just, oh my God.
Saving kitties.
Oh my God. We had a drainage project in front of the firehouse one time, and I don't know if I didn't know if I was going to make it through that. Because they just stand out there and just wait for me to do something stupid or make a mistake or, oh, you missed this or you missed that, and laugh, Rough.
Yeah.
When you're 17, 18 years old and you're operating equipment and tractors for like the first time. And
you're trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, and you're operating this stuff in front of an audience of pain in the ass firemen. Oh my God. Yeah.
One of my first jobs, I was 17, and my best friend Nick, that's in our videos a lot, we got a job to cut the grass at this church. And it was a big church, and it had a zero turn and a tractor. Dude, I never rode a zero turn in my life, and Nick has never rode a tractor in his life with a bush hog.
Yeah.
So I had to zero turn the graveyard, and I've never done a zero turn in my life.
You're knocking over headstones left.
Oh, dude, there's some unmarked graves at that place now, dude. I'm telling you. By the end of it, I was pretty good, but yeah. And it was old, so some of them you couldn't see that great, and they were super tight together. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was really bad. But poor place.
That's how I learned to do excavating, was because Dad would take care of drainage problems and cleaning catch basins, and a lot of people's basement drains were hooked into the city storm sewer.
Oh, gotcha.
So there were older houses in town, that if a catch basin got plugged and it plugged up a main, the storm water would back up in people's basements, and oh my God, they'd raise holy hell.
Yeah, that's a bad deal.
Yeah. So there were a lot of times where we'd have to dig up a storm sewer main that was, sometimes 8-9 feet deep, and we'd have the whole intersection dug back, because you got to lay it back so that the walls don't come in. And so that's how I learned to do excavating and drainage work. And
then you just went out on your own and did that.
Yeah,
that's cool. So we'll kind of fast forward. Just so you and Vicki married, you buy the house on the school bus route.
Yeah,
it's pretty picturesque, Bill. Really,
yeah.
Took Vicki to prom, and it's a pretty nice story, Bill.
Yeah.
And then you have the boys. Did you think the boys would be into cars?
I felt like they probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got married in 94. No. We bought the house in 96. We got married.
I was about to say,
we got married in 94, and we bought our first house in 96, and Vicki was actually pregnant with Billy when we moved in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we've been there since 1996.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that now, having my son, he's only 3, but it's fun he's so into cars right now. Anything, he's on me like white on rice, right? I know their day will come when he won't be. And, but yeah, it's really cool.
That day's rough. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah, it was rough for my dad. Now I'm after having Brixton, I'm so much more sympathetic to my old man. Of when I moved out, my dad cried. I
did too.
He's like, this sucks, So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's tough.
That was rough. That was extremely. There's a lot of things that went into that, but yeah, that was really Vicki and I. Yeah.
Yeah, I get
really
it.
Rough.
I get it. Yeah, now even I'm already fearful of that day, and he's 3.
Yeah.
But
yeah, for sure.
So Billy did get into cars. Well, and then shortly thereafter, he picked up a camera. Mm-hmm. And what was that like for you?
So I think what got Billy started was watching 1320 videos and stuff like that, and Urban Hillbilly and all that.
Yeah.
He would sit in high school and study hall, or maybe even during classes when he wasn't supposed to, and he'd watch street racing videos. And I had always bracket raced. I've never had anything to do with street racing. That was completely him. That's entirely my son. You know, some people have made comments on the internet, oh, he thinks he's this. No, I know I'm not. I never street raced. That was not my thing. I was big into bracket racing.
You're cheating Bill from Kirkersville.
That's a whole nother story. Yeah. I was into slot cars. We would race slot cars in the wintertime.
All right.
And I would build my own controllers to make the cars run what I wanted them to run. That's a whole nother story. That'd take a while. But we would run super stock. You're aware of super stock.
Yeah.
And they had a class called Super Stock D. And they had to weigh 125 grams or 120 grams. And they had to have these little cheap 16D bag motors in them. It was an economy class. And I built a controller that had a NiCad 1.5 volt battery in the handle. So it would take power from the track, it'd come up into the handle, run through the battery, and back to just my lane. So my lane would always run on 1.5 volts more than the other lane. So back then, 0.980 in the quarter mile, we called it 980s. Like that was a fast super stock D car. And there was guys spending a lot of money to run 980s in a super stock D car. And I was taking bag motors off the wall and junk and throwing it in a bracket car. It's inline chassis with 435 wide tires. No hollow axle, no nothing. 970. And people are like, what in the hell is he doing?
Yeah, how'd he do that?
And yeah, and there for a while on the internet, it was a big thing on the slot car internet world that, oh, you can't do that. It would power both lanes. These people don't have any idea what they were talking about. And that, but I was doing it for quite a while.
So not much has changed on the internet. Still people don't know what they're talking about.
But yeah, so I remember there was one weekend, 2 or 3 of my buddies had figured it out. And they're like, hey, Bill, you build me a controller so we can go to the Nationals. We can do this, we can do that. So I had built like 2 or 3 of them. And these guys all went up to a race in northern Ohio one weekend. And a lot of them went up to test a day earlier. And they were texting me and back then we had Nextels.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Where you at?
Bill, these guys are flying up here, man. We're cheating and we can barely keep up. So they're literally hitting me Nextel like, dude, you better bring your A game because your D cars ain't going to run what ours are up here because these guys. And the whole time I'm sitting there soldering another battery in mine, so I've got 2.6 volts in mine. I'll never forget. I went up there. I had a 55 Chevy that was like 10 grams overweight with an inline chassis on a 435 wide tire, and these guys had been up there cheating and testing for an entire day, and they're lined up and they're snickering, because they figure there ain't no way he's even going to qualify with this car that I was. I pulled a trigger on this piece of shit car I had, and it went down within like 300ths of the track record of the class. And all of them's eyes bugged out, and they're like, I had 2 batteries in my hand all that time I got there.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that's how I got the name Cheatin' Bill from Kirkersville, was from slot car racing.
That's funny.
I was always looking for an advantage, trying to outsmart somebody.
I guess it didn't say you couldn't do that.
No, not at the time. Nobody had ever thought of it, I guess. I don't know of anybody that had ever done that before I did it. But I was always, I didn't have the money. I never had much money to do anything. I was always the bare bones, picking up junk and trying to make something out of it. And so I would always look for a way to outsmart people or find a weakness in their program or find a strength in their program and find a way to turn it against them.
Yeah.
I was just that guy,
You think that's what makes you passionate about trying to make sure there's a place for people up and coming?
Yeah, 100%.
Because you're the way you grew up.
That's how I grew up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like I would love to see more people get into the bracket race side of stuff But even that, like, I don't know, it just doesn't, as Tom Gunner would say, it's just not as sexy. So,
But look what he's done with Little Gangsters.
no, I think it's, I really, he made that post yesterday about the entries and stuff. And I think if you can get people to try it,
You've got to make it cool. You've got to make it sexy. You've got to make it, you've got to market it in a way that people want to be involved in it. Because typically, people that race heads up don't want anything to do with bracket racing, and bracket racers don't really want anything to do with. It's like trying to mix oil and water, even though it's all drag racing. They just don't usually mix.
yeah.
But I can tell you, and this is a very important thing. I don't know. We're kind of skipping a whole bunch of stuff here, but we'll get back to it maybe. But as far as heads up racing goes, oh my God, it's incredibly difficult to get started, because if you're Joe Schmo off the street and you see it on YouTube one day, and you live in a little townhouse, you don't even have a garage, like, there's a lot of infrastructure that goes into just being able to take a race car anywhere, a trailer, a truck, somewhere to store the trailer, the truck, the tools, a garage. And a lot of people just don't have that. But you know who does have that? Bracket racers, because they've already got a start in it. So,
Well, and a lot of times bracket racing's like pretty super generational. You know, it's like, you know, we did this, now we're doing it again.
Yeah.
You know,
but these are the people who have gotten maybe that little head start from their grandpa or their dad, just, you know, super stock, whatever. And they've already got that infrastructure. They can do this if they're intrigued by it and not turned off by it. And so, I don't know. I really, index is a very important part of no prep, in my opinion.
no, I think so too.
Because if you, I'll give you an example. Bracket racers tend to look down on it, or they don't really want to be part of it or anything like that. Usually, a lot of them, at least it was this way 4 or 5 years ago. And bracket racers are a different breed. They can be difficult, but
Well, all racers can be difficult.
Yeah.
Just depends on what button you push.
right. But if you look at what happens at, say, National Trails once a year does a night under fire, and they bring jet cars in, and everybody that bracket races has always complained about the jet cars. It screws up the track and blah, blah, blah. And they always bitch and complain, but the place is packed, full of racers every time. You know why? Because there's people in the stands.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's the first time their family, or the only time during the year that their family comes out to watch them race, because bracket racing in itself is pretty boring to watch. That's why there's no spectators. But if there's jet cars and we can make a family night of it, and there's an attraction there that's interesting, they all come.
Yeah.
So even though the bracket racers might complain about the jet cars or this or that, they're still there. They like to be in front of a crowd. They like to be in front of a big group of people. And so it's hard, it's difficult, but if you can find a way to bring those two worlds together, and it's slowly happening. It's a lot more now than, 3 or 4 years ago. But
Well, I think a lot of times with a lot of that stuff, if I outside looking in of no prep, so if 4 or 5 years ago, Brad and I were just putting on events. We still radial raced over here. We helped put on Cincy Street Nights, and we didn't race there at all. Right? We didn't no prep race. Well, then like I've just seen over the last, let's call it 3 years, where your class racers have really came in. Guys that are really good at racing. They're well funded. They know how to work. They're used to working with it in a rule set. Like they're just really good at what they do. And I think 3 or 4 years ago they were like, we don't need any rules. Like let it ride. And then a lot of talent came in, and then there even within the street race community there were some guys that really had some hidden talent that once that other talent came in, it elevated, and it really elevated pretty quickly.
this is funny. I actually was going to make a video about this. God, I keep skipping, but I was going to make a video about this a while back when there was a lot of heated argument about no rules, we don't need rules, blah, blah, blah. The very first event that Billy and I did at Pacemakers, you were there.
Yeah.
You and Brad. And if you remember, it's in one of the Street Racing Channel videos. It's so funny because you and Brad, radial racers, you had that little purple love truck, and you guys were working on hustling this guy in a Mustang.
Yeah.
And the guy in a Mustang was a real deal, legit street racer from down around Dayton. And the car ran good.
It did run good.
It was a really good street race car. It was set up, tested to run on a street. And back then, you know, a lot of people that were on the street didn't really mess with the track too much. And so when you put those cars on track, they wheel stand, and they're fun to watch.
They are, yeah.
They're really entertaining. But it was during that event, we had a friend of ours, Derek Beach, was announcing, and he was kind of shoving the microphone in this guy's face. And he's like, these guys are trying to get me for $500, man, you know? And that's when I realized instantly, when you bring street racers and street race cars to the track, the class racers are just licking their chops, man, because they can see.
Yeah.
It's like blood in the water.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It's like blood in the water. Yeah. And I realized right then and there, and it was the first event, and I remember right then and there thinking, okay.
I think it was Brad and I's fault.
Hey, that was it for me. I mean, right then and there, I realized there's blood in the water. When, like, the whole reason we were doing that was because Billy and I had gotten busted in the act over by Rickenbacker street racing. And Billy was street racing his S10 against some all-wheel drive diesel pickup. And Billy got busted in the act. Like, in the act.
Yeah.
Like, he went past the highway patrol sitting in a median with the lights on at about 120, you know. And funny, I was in bib overalls. I was still working. I was still doing excavating, and I was in bib overalls. And the officer was just giving everybody the right, like, they're being really rude and obnoxious and mean and yelling and screaming and everything. But once they got everybody cleared out and they were focused on Billy, there was a cruiser parked there with him, and then I finally made my way down there and got out of my truck. And I walked up to the cruiser. I'm in bib overalls. I look like a farmer, you know, and his attitude completely changed. It was, yes, sir. You know, he was showing me a lot of respect. I guess because the way I was dressed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, you know, he said, "Are you with that boy in that truck?" I said, "Yes, sir. That's my son." "And you're out here with him?" "Yes, sir, I am." Very, you know, but his attitude completely changed when he realized his dad was out there. I would think that maybe it would aggravate him even more, but we didn't get towed. They could have impounded the truck. It was on slicks.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think too at the, you know, at just humanity wise, people liked seeing that, you know, you might have been doing the wrong thing, but man, at least they're out here together. You know, like the father and son is spending time together. Like that's, I think that's a good, probably why. But
so they let us go. They give him a ticket, but they let us take the truck and drive it home on slicks.
yeah.
So, but he had a mandatory court appearance, and when we got down there, the judge literally told us, "Why are you doing this? Like, you're his dad. What are you thinking? You know, like, there's nowhere to race at the track." He's like, "If there's nowhere at the track, if they don't have events for this kind of racing, you're going to make one." "Yes, sir." And so we did, and that's how Pacemakers Cash Days got started, and KD Midnight Madness, and that's how that started. That's why it started. That was an agreement that we had with the judge, if he would
Yeah, kind of smooth it over.
smooth it over a little bit. You know, we had a fine, or Billy had a fine, but that's why those events were started, because he literally told us, if there isn't a place or a venue or an event for you guys to do this safely at a track, then you're going to make one. Because they figured out that Billy had a YouTube channel, you know.
That was going to be my question, if he had
Yeah.
already established that and how,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know, the influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how big it was then, but
Not nearly what it is now.
Yeah.
But, and then there was another time we got pinched in Columbus. Well, we didn't get pinched in the act. We almost got it. But we had a big grudge race lined up with a Nova, a big block nitrous Nova. And this
was it
car,
that gold one?
They had the gold one.
I
Remember
love that car.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That thing was cool.
That thing was badass. Had a 632.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we set up a street race, and that was like a few years ago, things have changed a lot, but a few years ago, if you had a small tire caged mini tub Nova with a 632 on a couple of kits, like, dude, you were king shit on the street, you know. There were no draggies.
Yeah.
You have to understand, back then, nobody really knew what these cars were doing.
Yeah,
You
there
could
wasn't
just
the
watch.
data. I mean, even, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I call it ricer math, you know.
Yeah.
But, nobody really knew what those cars would run on the street. They knew what they'd run at the track. They'd see them light the boards at a track. Oh, my God, that's an 870 car, man. These guys are screwing around with this 970 S10. But can they get it done on the street? And there was a lot of, it was a big deal back then. And so we got this race set up, and we were going into Columbus that night. And we pull up to the spot, and we had just pulled in. And the truck was on a trailer, and we were scoping things out. And there was a Columbus police officer in a marked cruiser, and he was hiding behind the semi-trailers. It was in an industrial area. And he pulls out, just his parking lights on, never turned his lights on, the light bar, pulls right up next to us. And I was outside the truck, and I was actually looking at the street. And he pulls up, and he goes, "What you guys doing?" I said, "Well, we're headed home now." He knew what we were there to do.
Yeah.
And I knew that he knew.
It was no.
It was a mutual respect.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, we're going home now. He's like, let me explain something to you. I know who you are. He said, I know that truck. What you don't understand is that truck, that S10, Billy's S10, is the screensaver on every one of the freeway patrol laptops in Columbus. Everybody knows that truck. And when they see that truck moving, we already know where the race spots are. You guys, you leave these black marks. We know where you're racing at. And we all just go right to the spots, and we just sit there and wait. He's like, you guys can't keep doing this.
Yeah, it's going to end up bad.
Well, what had happened, honestly, what really got it bad was there was actually, I don't know if this is true. This is just what the officer told me. And it may be bullshit. It may have been real. I don't know. I would say there's probably some truth to it, given the circumstances. But do you remember when Billy raced Daddy Dave in that S10 pickup truck, and Daddy Dave was in
He was in Phil's Mustang.
Phil's Mustang? Okay. So that deal that was in the winter. It was like in December or November.
It was, yeah, I remember that. It was really cold.
Oh, yeah. So we get a call one night from a guy who's like, hey, man, Daddy Dave's down here in Dayton, and he's driving around in his twin-turbo Coyote Mustang. He's looking for a street race. You guys in? And I'm out to dinner with Vicki at Tumbleweed. I remember exactly where I was at. And my phone rings, and it's Billy's like, hey, we got to get going. We got to load the truck up. It's snowing, son. What the hell are you talking about? It's like spitting snow. He's like, oh, no, not in Dayton. It's not. Dayton? What the hell's in Dayton? Oh, we're going to go race Daddy Dave. He's in Phil Hines' Mustang. Like, whatever. I hung up. Another bullshit street racing story. It ain't never going to materialize. I finished my dinner. Vicki and I pulled in and Junior's already got my dually hooked to the trailer, and the S10's loaded and tied down. The truck's sitting there running the driveway.
He's motivated.
Oh, it's happening.
Yeah.
I said, what are you doing, dude?
Well,
It's
that's
raining.
when really Street Outlaws was at its height, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah. And so we drove all the way down there, and literally within a mile of where we were planning on racing, it's pouring down rain. Wipers, snow, rain and snow mix. And a mile from the spot, it just dries up, and the roads are all dry, you know. But what I'm getting to is what had happened was that video of Billy racing Daddy Dave down there had gone kind of, I don't know, I would say viral, but it made its
It gained
rounds.
a lot of traction at the time, yeah.
Yeah. And the Columbus Police Department were already kind of on our, like we were on their radar.
Yeah.
And when they saw that, they thought that we had shut down 270 in Columbus, which is a hazmat route. Federal investigation now. You can't, don't do that.
Yeah, it's bad.
Don't shut down or try and street race on a hazmat route. That's bad. But they thought that we had shut down 270, which is a hazmat route, and they thought we had done that. And so the officer told us that, you know, there's a federal investigation into what you guys are doing now in Columbus because you shut down a hazmat route. I said, no, we didn't do that. Yes, you did. I mean, he was like, I got the feeling.
Yeah. You probably don't want to push back on this.
Yeah. I mean, even though it wasn't true, and I was trying to explain, I was going to tell him right where it happened. He wasn't hearing it.
Yeah, it was too late.
Yeah. And that was, I think that was when we really got serious about pacemakers, you know, about doing events up there. And that's how that happened.
Did you think so at that time in life, you know, you're still digging ditches, you're still doing all excavating work,
Yeah.
and, you know, your boys out there street racing, you've never been a part of that in your life. You know, you're the bracket race guy. And then now you've added a camera into this mix. Like, he's filming what he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Like, did you think at that point that there was any kind of future in that?
I did.
Really?
Yeah.
So you already saw, you thought that there was potential there?
You know, I mean, Billy would show me 13, 20 videos and you know, and these guys are making a living at this. And I had resigned myself to dying in the excavator or dying in that dump truck. I was gonna work until I died. And I was like, there's some pride in that, I guess, at least I had back then. Like, I really enjoyed what I did. I was really good at what I did for a living. And I took a lot of pride in my work. And, you know, when I grew up, the old timers, they worked till they died, and they took pride in that. And I had resigned myself to, that's how I was going to go. I was going to work until I couldn't.
You're right about
anymore.
that. There's a lot of, and I think about that a lot now because my dad is older. Like, my dad's, you know, he's going to be 82 in November. So I kind of grew up in this generation, but not because my parents were older, you know. And I think there is a lot of pride in that. But now, knowing what I know, I'm like, there's a lot of stupidity in that too.
Yeah.
You know, like because it is rooted in that, you know, pride, right? Like but I think there is a lot better way. I think we need a balance, right? We need to want to work, but there definitely needs to be that balance there.
Yeah. So I never wanted this. This was not I never wanted to be a YouTuber. This was Billy's thing. But I couldn't do excavating by myself. I just couldn't. And I needed my kids to help. And if my kids weren't going to help, I wasn't going to force them. So I decided that if there is a future in this, I'm going to support Billy. And we're going to do this. Like, I spent money that I didn't have, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think you're just redirecting the focus of probably as Billy was growing up, your thought was he's going to take over this family business. He's going to do the excavating work.
Yeah.
So now you're just redirecting to a focus of where you could still spend time with your son and sons once Tommy kind of got into it, but it was just a switch, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was clear to me that the kids didn't really particularly care for doing the kind of work that I grew up doing. It wasn't their thing. You know, it was important that they learned it, that they learned that work ethic, that they understood what it's like to have to get up at early in the morning and get rolling and do something in the rain or in the snow or in the heat. You know, it was important to me that they knew what diesel fuel smelled like at 7 a.m. and rolling out of the stack and the blue smoke rolling and you firing everything up. And that was one of my favorite things that I loved about doing that was first thing in the morning, firing the trucks up and firing the equipment up. And the last thing at the end of the day was when you throw the ramps up on the trailer and you push the clutch in and go home. You know, that was a big thing for me. But what I loved wasn't really what they loved. But they loved race cars. And I loved race cars too.
Yeah, we found some common ground there.
Yeah. So we found some common ground there that, you know, my kids love this and I love it too. And, you know, like I said, I was never a street racer. That is 1,000% my son. I became involved in it after his very first night. We got invited to get together in Mexico. And there were some people there that night that all had some cars. There was a turbo 4.6 Mustang that was supposed to be fast. And then there was a G8 Pontiac with nitrous on it that was supposed to be fast. And then there was a guy named C.J. Buckner. And C.J. was the king. I mean, everybody knew C.J. And nobody beats C.J. Like, if you beat C.J., you're really doing something, you know. And at that time, he had the Malibu. It wasn't the Mustang. He had the white Malibu. And we were still being pretty sneaky about what we were trying to do. Like the nitrous was on the horn button.
That's funny.
You know, the horn button was the night. Like you looked inside Billy's S10, it just looked like a piece of junk. Didn't even have a cage in it.
Do you miss those days?
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Just the pressure of like not having to. You weren't filming everything. You weren't.
No, I mean no. That when we're filming for Billy's channel, that's easy for me because all I got to do is just be myself. But when I'm filming for myself, I'm filming and editing and trying to. That's exhausting. That's exhausting. But no, I mean what I loved about those days is we used to just get in that truck and drive it to the west side of Columbus and listen to the stereo, you know, and just be present, you know, in the moment, and the sights and the sounds and the butterflies in your stomach when you roll up on the spot. And are these guys really ready? I mean, have they been testing? You know, are we going to look stupid if we can't pull this off? But my background in bracket racing is a very technical sport, very technical. You have to be sharp. Not that you don't have to be sharp in every form of racing, but
it's just differences.
There's some real differences. And when we rolled up there that night, it was funny. Everybody had their cars just parked behind their trailers. Everybody's just kind of hanging out, you know. Dude, we rolled in there, and it was like we were getting ready for first round off the trailer at a bracket race. We fired this thing up, unloaded it, shoved the ramps in on the trailer, pulled this thing out into the left lane, and warmed it up, and we're like, we're ready. Who's first? You know? And these guys are all standing around looking at us like we've got three heads. Like, what the hell are these guys doing? You know, who do they think they are? You know?
Yeah.
We've never even seen these. Like, who invited these guys?
Yeah, how'd they get here?
But, dude, I'm telling you that every single day, that if it wasn't raining, Billy and I would come home from work, and all the way home we'd talk about what we want to try and what we want to change. And we'd shut that truck off, slam the doors on the dump truck, and right in the shop we went. And we'd fire that truck up, and we had a test spot down the road right behind the track. And dude, we tested and tested and tested and tested. And we beat cars and stuff that we had no earthly business sitting beside. But we got really good at reading surfaces. And I was just as into it as Billy was. But I was doing all kinds of crazy shit with the nitrous controllers, because we were on nitrous back then. And, you know, we were having 3-second ramp times. When you start ramping nitrous in over 3 seconds, boy, you get in trouble, because the nitrous solenoid and the fuel solenoid don't flow the same.
Yeah.
And we were learning, you know, I was running the solenoids on 2 different channels on different frequencies to keep it happy. And oh my God, we were doing so much testing.
Do you remember when you called me about a wing? Do you remember that? You called the shop. It wasn't long after Pacemakers. You called because somebody had built a wing for the truck. It's not the wing that's on there now. It's got a nice wing on it now.
Yeah.
But it didn't have like any wicker and stuff.
Yeah.
And you called, and we were talking through that. I mean, you were now listening to you talk, I can see you light up about that.
Yeah.
You like it didn't really matter that you were on the street. You just like the technical side of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know. It's like if you're a crack addict and you found a new way to hit it.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like. I mean, couldn't stop. It was the first thing I thought of in the morning. It was the last thing I thought of at night, was how to make my kid faster, how to make that truck do something better. And dude, I loved it. Loved it.
That's cool. I've never really heard you talk about that.
Yeah,
I don't
no.
know. I don't think most people have. Yeah, it's really neat. And, you getting to spend that much time with your son, and, like you said, you're spending money you didn't have. Like that's the stuff that we talked about this with Tommy and Allison is, like they just see this, right? They just see where you're at now. They see, and I've said this quote 4 million times because it's amazing. It's my buddy Kevin Neal that Kevin used to do nitrous stuff. He's an X275 guy. And he said, it took me years to become an overnight success.
Yeah.
And it's, people don't see that, spending the money that you didn't have. You're gambling on red. You're gambling that this YouTube channel might take off, that you're invested in your boy, that you like, I think this has potential. We're going to leave. I don't think people realize how uncomfortable it is to the excavating stuff. I know it had its struggles, but you had a plan, right? That you're like, this plan will probably work. Like, they're going to take over the business. I already know how to do the estimation work, all that stuff, right? So now you take off the safe bet.
Yeah.
And now you're betting your time and money on a YouTube channel.
Which was really foreign, even, I don't know the years, but it's not like it is now. Like, there's oversaturation of people trying to do it, but 1312 being the big one.
1320,
20. There wasn't
that
a street
urban
race.
hillbilly.
There wasn't much of a street race channel example then, like there is now, that blueprint. So it's rad to hear these connecting stories of the earliness of it.
Yeah, I think back then, like 1320 and urban hillbilly was about
the
it.
big ones, yeah.
And they went around and they documented street racing and stuff, and they did like different events. And
it's really cool hearing, because again, Billy didn't, I think maybe shared some of the stories, but just his know-all or whereabout, like, of taking that race in Dayton, because that guy kind of had a buzz or a name for himself on the TV side, right?
Yeah.
Like, and did you guys end up racing that Dayton race?
Well,
the
yeah,
street
they
race?
did. Yeah.
And was that
Yeah.
filmed and put on YouTube?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that created traction and buzz
yeah.
for Street Race Channel. And
Yeah.
then the CJ guy you mentioned that
Yeah.
nobody beat. Did you guys end up beating him?
Yeah.
Yeah, you filmed that, I'm sure too.
Yeah,
Like
you
just-
know CJ. So
Okay.
remember your buddy that?
Oh yeah, Raggedy Ant.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So yeah, just you guys putting all this in this new basket, and then obviously Billy having you having the support, you supporting him, but him having a vision and like, yo, I know this YouTube thing, this race thing can work, and like him kind of making the right moves to build that audience early on. Like it's really cool to hear that the early form of that, because again, we only see that now. I came in this late. I saw you guys. You guys were I gave Tommy this. You guys are kind of like the Northern Star. Like when Jason sent me examples, like we would love to have you do Media Rick. Like these are some kind of channels that we really enjoy their content. You guys always stood out. So it's cool hearing that you guys didn't. You guys have kind of set the example for it. So it's cool to hear how he made those
Never
connections
thought of it
early
that
on.
way.
Sorry, I ramble a lot and
No,
I
you're
get
good.
excited over.
Well, you got to understand, like to Ricky's point, is
Because this is only from a media video standpoint. It's
Sure.
not from the race standpoint. Like it's cool to look at it from that standpoint. You guys are like, lack of a better term, like you set the whole trajectory of this YouTube, us, a street race or Tin Soldier, us wanting to pursue it. Like you guys were the example for that. It's really cool.
Never thought of it that way.
And then this is again, Tommy, and I want to get into yours because I want to give you compliments. Like
You don't have to.
no. I do. Like the Street Race Channel, I've told Billy, I've told Tommy, because I know Tommy does a lot of the editing for Street Race Channel and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I love their edits. I think it just is really they set themselves apart from everyone else. And then I watched your videos, and when we were sitting at lunch, I asked you, how you edit. You say you do it all on phone. So I thought you would use an app like CapCut, but you said you still just use iMovie.
Yeah.
And it's like really cool to me where your videos, I watch them because they don't have all these cameras that I have in this room and all this lighting, but you're such a good storyteller, like, and that trumps everything. Like, and how you, I forget what the most recent video I watched of yours, but the way you just connected everything, I was like, man, this is like a little short movie or a short film. Like, and so I wanted to compliment you on that. Like your storytelling and the way you lay things out, and seeing how you've, I'm not say broke off. It's, you guys are all very much still connected, but like you're taking your own avenue in it, just the way that Billy did early on, separating himself from 1320 videos. I'm sure his format was much different than how they did it. I never watched their videos, but like you've now made your own little avenue with it. It's really cool to observe from a creator standpoint. Like I love what you guys do. So
Thank you.
that's my compliment.
Appreciate it.
it's a good
My
compliment.
long-winded compliment.
Dude, we're already at an hour. Are you ready to cut this thing off?
Nah, we're all right. This is interesting.
No time limits.
Yeah, there's no time limits.
Jesus.
Well, I think I like the when you're talking about what you liked in the excavation work, which I've never watched you do that, but I've watched some guys that are really technical on dozers, and it's beautiful to watch. Like it's crazy. And now knowing that about you, like really having that conversation, it makes sense why you like the technical side of the video thing.
Yeah.
It's a different avenue for the same thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you do a good job, and you are a fantastic storyteller. Like
Professional bullshitter.
that's what storytellers are.
That's what it is.
That's
Yeah, for sure.
What's that movie about the fish? Gosh, it's a book too, I think, but I don't know.
Fish.
It's I forget what the name of the movie is. It's awesome. It's about like basically the stories in the family forever, and it's because it's the fish story. It's the fish was this big, but it was actually this big. It's a great movie, but no, there is and I think the cool thing, the art of storytelling, is something that is generational. Like my dad is a great storyteller.
Yeah.
And I like I'm okay at it. But the reason I'm okay at it is because of my dad. And but my grandpa he was awesome storyteller. Like, he used to sit in his chair with his cup of coffee, and like he would just, because they didn't watch TV,
Right.
they just like they told stories. And like, if we go back throughout history, that's how history gets told, right? It's these stories. So I think with YouTube now, that's something that's really cool about it, is that these stories will get to be, they're going to be on there forever, which is, and I think about me personally for my kids, Brixton, when he is, and I hope, when he's 16, 17 years old, he's going to go back and watch his Uncle Rick filming and us doing these things and see a little him. And like, man, that's cool. Like, I don't care, all the audience and stuff, we appreciate you. But like, just for us to have a video a week at minimum that our families will be able to go back and watch, like, that's cool.
Do you
man.
ever think on so taking the approach that you took with excavating, like you thought that was you were gonna die in that chair? Like, do you look at YouTube that way? Do you think you'll do YouTube forever, and because now you have a grandchild, and like he's gonna be able to look back always like, oh, my grandpa was tight, like he did this. And do you see yourself doing videos forever?
I don't know.
Yeah. Fair.
I never thought I'd get this far.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, all of it's like a crazy surprise. Again, it's just crazy.
Every time I walk into this building, I feel the same way.
You feel the same way?
Like really what it hits me is I take my girls to school every day. I love taking my kids to school. So I'm about 15 minutes late every day. And so when I roll in at 9:15, all the boys are already here. And Ricky works 2 days a week. So especially when Rick's here, big man. I roll up to this building and I see all those cars out there. And then I'm like, how in the world did this even happen? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of it's a bit of a scary responsibility if you're honest about it. Cause you're like, well, all these people like
rely on you.
Yeah. Like if I make a bad decision, like, that's a bad decision. It can really affect all of us. And to your point, I don't think that the world, if they've never owned their own business, they don't understand, like, you spent money you didn't have for a gamble that you thought that would pay off. This deal, no different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's none of it. The excavation, no different.
Yeah.
You're just, it's a funny way to live, really.
It's a very stressful way to live.
Yeah, it can
sometimes.
be. Yeah, I've learned to deal with it now. Like I used to have more stress for sure when we kind of were really trying to figure out our way, and we made some bad decisions. We tried to scale the car business, build more race cars. That's a terrible idea. Scaling what we do now, I like that's a lot more predictable, and now we have more. You just have more ways to make revenue, right? Yeah. Where before it was pretty limited.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of what people don't quite understand is like, even with you, like, you need to make a couple videos a week to keep this ball rolling.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of stressful. Mm-hmm. Like for us, like we need to sell this much stuff. We need to do this, do that to keep this ball rolling. And now the ball is,
it's a big ball.
It's a pretty big ball.
Yeah. So a lot of times, here's the hard thing about one, and I'm not trying to say like I don't have it easy, because I really do. But when I was helping Jimmy get started, he'd hear me bitch and complain about certain things, certain aspects of it, and be like, bro, get over it, Yeah. You're living the dream.
Yeah.
Now he's probably dealing with some of those things.
And now Jimmy's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing of it is, like, not every day is a good day. There's bad things that happen every day. And nobody wants to see the bad things. I mean, some people do, but I don't want to show bad things. And so there's days where I'll lay in bed in the morning, I wake up, it is in order for me to film what happens every day, I almost have to have some idea what's about to happen. Because after it happens, you can't film it.
Yeah. No, we struggle with that all the time.
Oh my God. It is non-stop. And so there's days where it feels so good. When I first wake up in the morning and I'm not thinking about anything, it feels so good. And I just don't want to start, because once it starts, because so we've got the machine shop, we've got Bob working for us at the machine shop. There's projects going on there. Those parts and those things don't start themselves, and they don't order themselves. And, the networking that goes along with all that doesn't do itself. That's, and then you've got the body shop. We've got multiple projects going on up at the body shop at House of Pearls. And not only does it cost, but there's constant communication. Oh, we didn't have the inner fender seals, or we need new front fenders, or, So trying to keep Bob going at the machine shop, parts coming in there, parts coming in at the body shop. I've got too much going on right now. I've got to scale back.
Yeah.
I can't keep doing this forever. But then you've got, keeping Tanner busy at our shop and trying to keep everything maintained, the trucks and the trailers and the daily drivers and the race cars, and it's just nonstop. It's nonstop. And it's okay once I get up and I get going. But God, my first few minutes when I wake up in the morning and I'm not thinking about anything, it just feels so good. And sometimes I don't want to move.
Takes you back to the blue smoke on the excavator.
Yeah. So, but the other thing is, like, people watch the videos, and what they see in the videos, that's their memory. Mm-hmm. And they don't know anything else that's going on in the background. They don't know any of the problems, or, So when they see you at an event, they expect you to be that guy instantly. And the problem is there's shit going wrong left and right all day long. I'll give you an example. Let's see. I've got so many, but the one example I'll give you is I had just had the windows tinted in my dually, that maroon dually that I bought off Bob. Just had the windows tinted in it. It's all detailed inside, nice. Try and take nice care of it, new to me. And we pull into Kanawha Valley for the first time ever for me. But they just opened the track. And God bless her, there was this super nice lady who, I don't know, she had beef jerky for me or something.
It's a great gift.
Oh, yeah. And so I haven't even gotten in the track yet. I haven't even paid to get in the track yet. I'm in line. And she comes up, and I've got June and Chevy in the truck with me. And June is extremely, extremely protective of me. And they feed off each other. Once one of them's dander goes up, then they're, it's on. And this lady walks up, and she taps on the window. Or she didn't tap on the window. She had her hand up like she had the bag in her hand, and she was getting ready to tap on the window. And I'm like, no. Because the dogs hadn't seen her yet. But once they see her and what she's about to do, they're going to tear the tent off my windows. And I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just like, no, don't get back. And oh my gosh, she took it so personal, but she didn't understand why.
Yeah.
And I never saw her the rest of the night. But she flipped me off and fuck you, and away she went. And I'm sorry, whoever that was, but people don't understand that when we first pull in the track, it's freaking chaos. It is chaos. I'm trying to get the dogs, like, we have to stack all the merch and stuff in the living quarters. So I have to keep the dogs in the truck with me while Vicki unloads that stuff because they will just tear the hell out of the place. And June is so protective of me. If anybody comes near me, she gives them a warning nip first. And if they don't stop, it's on.
Yeah.
So I have to be really careful. So it's always really tense when we first get there. And sometimes I can't even get out of the truck and open the generator door so we can start the air conditioning on the trailer. Like that's the first step of the process is open the generator door, start the generator, turn the air conditioning on so we can start getting the trailer ready for the dogs. And it's kind of a running joke now. It's like I time it how many seconds before somebody stops me for a picture, or I want you to they want to show me pictures of their car, or something. And it's like it's so stressful when we first get to a track or we first get someplace because it's just madness.
Yeah.
I can't believe how many people they're so excited, you know what I mean? And they want to get to us before we get busy, but they don't realize, like, let us get set up,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a lot of the unknowns of, of this stuff is, you probably didn't know that you were ever going to have to be prepared for that.
Dude, I used to be able to stand on a starting line in bib overalls and nobody asked me shit. And it was wonderful. It really was. But I have to literally, like, I'm an introvert anyway.
Yeah.
I am not comfortable with people I don't know. I'm definitely not comfortable in crowds of people. I've had to work really hard at that. And I have to limit myself to exposure at the track. Like, if anybody's ever tried to find me at the track, you'll have a hard time because I'm usually in the trailer hiding. Because, like, and I've done it to myself, but I didn't realize I was doing it to myself. But I don't know what's coming out of somebody's mouth from 1 minute to the next. They could be talking about my brother. They could be talking about Mark. They could be talking about Billy. They could be talking. It's hard to tell. There's so much that's happened in our lives publicly, and not all of it good.
Yeah.
And there's things that I just don't want to talk about. Like I've had conversations 1,000 times about this, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. And it's inevitably it's the first thing somebody wants to talk about, and I don't know.
Well, like you said, you've worked hard to because you have worked into this role.
Yeah.
And it's not your natural deal. Like I can pick on myself. Like I'm naturally an extrovert. Like people give me energy. Like I like talking to people. So like I can take it a lot longer than what most people can because that's just my mom's like that. My dad is more like you. But like my wife is not. Like she is, she likes her people.
Yeah.
Like, and then, and that's a lot of the reason why Tara doesn't come to the track all the time is because, our pit's super busy.
Yeah.
It's a lot similar to, not near what you guys, but it's still, it's crazy. So like it's hard with the kids because people are wanting to come up and talk about something. And then you got the kids running around that you're trying to kind of keep an eye on, make sure they're not getting hit by a car. It's like, so she's like, man, it's just not enjoyable to me. Yeah. And like, man, it makes me really sad.
Yeah.
Because, like my first drag racing memory that I really love is I had built a third-gen Camaro in my garage with the Turbo OS. Had no idea what I was doing. I had my dad that was helping me, but he didn't know anything about turbo stuff. And I'm like mad scienting this thing together. I flux core MIG welding a turbo kit, which that was like 13 years ago, 12 years, not that long ago. Like this turbo kit looked awful. And I had a C10 and I had a trailer that her dad let me borrow that like it was so tight you couldn't open the doors on the Camaro. I had to crawl out the hatch. And me and her and our dog Lucy loaded up and we went to LS Fest. And I was that guy that had never been down the track that was definitely supposed to oil it down.
Yep.
Thankfully, I didn't. But man, we had the time. We had such a great time, and like I'm trying to relive that every time we go to the racetrack.
Yeah.
But it's kind of sucks that it's evolved. Back to you like being on the street with with Billy in that simple time, it's like it evolves, and now it involves more people because you're more public, and that's a lot of the stuff that you don't think about when you do start a YouTube channel or you start a business or whatever you're doing, because you need people to know you, so you can do this, you know. But
100%.
There's definitely a side to it that you're not really ready for, and like back to me picking on myself, people do energize me, but I wasn't even ready for it.
Yeah.
So a person that is an introvert, like my wife reminds me all the time, you know, like I don't want to deal with all these people, you know. That's one of the reasons she's not really even on our YouTube stuff, you know. Is
I'll be honest with you, dude. You know, you mentioned when I first got here, I've kind of gotten cold feet about this.
Yeah.
And a couple of times or 100 times. And
we've talked about this probably for a year.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you the honest truth is I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean,
yeah, I wasn't ready to have conversations with you on a podcast.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. You've had a pretty major effect without maybe knowing it. But, you know, oh my gosh, there's so many things that happen on a weekly basis that are so frustrating. And I've always been the guy that just, you know, and I just put people on blast. And I don't do it anymore. A lot of it's because I'm learning from you how to roll with it, you know.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's a really big compliment, man. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we do talk a lot, man. Like, you really do mean a lot to me. And, like, to take the YouTube crap out of it, I don't really, you know, I care about it because I care about you. But, like, you know, I've watched you over the last few years. Like, you really, I can tell you, like, you're working on you.
Yeah.
Which that's the hardest thing in the world to work on is yourself, you know, because you want to be better, which is, that's great. Like, we all want that, you know.
Dude, my oldest boy, oh my God.
Yeah, it was a lot for a while. Yeah. Well, and I think too, a lot of that, man, is like, I remember getting older with my dad, and like, you know, now me and him have a really great relationship, but there definitely was a few years where it was more rocky. And my dad's awesome, you know, like, I love my dad, but like, yeah, you just get to that point in your relationship where, I don't know, you just almost got to test it.
Yeah. So, you know, I think there's a lot of different reasons why Billy and I would not see eye to eye. But I think initially, when he was first getting started, and I've never had this conversation with him. He's not the easiest to talk to, by the way, you know, but I've never had this conversation with him. But I feel, looking back on it, I think I understand, because I've looked at this through a microscope for years now. But when he first got started, I was helping him a lot and spending money I didn't have, a lot of money I didn't have. And I'd go to the machine shop and I'd pay cash, and I'd hide the receipts in the toolbox in the shop, and my wife would come out there every once in a while, and she'd be looking for something, and she'd stumble onto a machine shop receipt for $2,000 or $3,000 paid cash. Oh my God.
I didn't know that Miss Vicki could yell.
Oh my. But, you know, there was a lot of, anytime that you start to excel in life, if you've come from nothing, wherever you start from, there's going to be people around you that never want to see you take off. There's some that do, but there's people that when they start to see you start to do better or start to have a following or whatever the case may be, there's going to be people that would really like to just drag you back where you came from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so a lot of those people would throw it in Billy's face, Daddy's money. And I'm sure, I know for a fact he was sick to death of hearing that. He wanted to be his own man. He wanted to make his own way.
Yeah.
And Tommy, same way. But I think that, you know, I was helping him so much, and he really didn't, I don't think he really wanted to show how much his mom and I helped him, because it wasn't cool, you know, to be 20 years old or 21 years old and your YouTube channel starting to take off. He wanted to, it was street racing channel. He wanted to film street racing. That's the channel, street racing. And, you know, he wanted to take pretty girls on ride-alongs because it gets a lot of views. It makes good money.
Yeah.
But I differed with Billy in that I knew, ultimately, a long-term business plan of filming illegal activity is not something you're going to be able to do forever. Like, you can't do illegal activities and film it every single day or every week and put a video up. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, we even look at like 1320 now. Like they don't. I don't know if they've put out a street racing video, and I mean it's been a long time.
So, you know, I would kind of get into it with Billy because I felt like there was content being wasted, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of content being wasted every week. But he doesn't want to really show it back then. He wanted to do ride-alongs and, you know, shit like that. And so, I don't know, we had a lot of differences. And
Well, I think the interesting part is you both are introverts, right? Like honestly, I would, you know, you're both introverts. And I think when you're starting this thing out, even for us, what we thought, if I'm just picking on us, and I think it applied to you guys, is like, you love cars. I love cars. Ricky doesn't, but
you don't love cars, Ricky?
No, car guy.
yeah.
Damn. Okay, go ahead.
You take him for a ride in the Malibu, it's maybe he'll like
change that here
Yeah,
a little
yeah. But I always thought that the cars would be the vocal point. Like that's why people watch the channel, right? Like they want to see the cars. But that's actually not human nature. I don't care how much you like cars. People are attracted to other people.
Yeah.
So like the people are always going to be the vocal point, even if you don't think that they are. And I think, especially as someone that's an introvert, that's a tough thing to, you know, to really grasp. You know, it's like, I have this cool Malibu,
Mm-hmm.
so I've parked it out front here for you to look at. Why are you coming and talking to me? Like, the cool thing here is the Malibu. Well, in actuality, the reason that that people like the Malibu is because they like you, you know, and I think that's a hard thing to grasp and understand.
It is.
In the beginning.
Oh boy. I don't know how long you got, but I'm going to try and keep this short. But part of the reason people may find in person that I'm not very, I don't know, talkative or likable, maybe sometimes, it's because I'm not comfortable being put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I get very uncomfortable when people act weird. Like people walk up, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. Oh, I hate that, dude. God, I hate that. I hate that. I really do. I get so uncomfortable because I'm not any different today than I was when I was digging ditches. I'm the same. I just make these videos on my phone. And people treat it like it's a television show. And maybe it's edited similarly, but it's just my life. And I'm the same person today that I was when nobody knew anything about me. And so I still feel that way. I'm still that person. And so I don't like being put on a pedestal. I don't like being treated different than, because I don't feel any different. I don't see myself that way.
Yeah.
And so it almost aggravates me sometimes because people view me or my kids or my family as some superstar or something, and we're not. I'm not. I'm just trying to make it like everybody else, you know? So I'm trying to come to terms with that, and it's a work in progress.
It's a bummer that, and I understand that like fully, that people, I think the comments to this will be overwhelmingly positive. Like, it's hard to take that the wrong way. Like sitting in my, but it's unfortunate that your example at the track, the woman rushing up, and your intent wasn't bad. It's just like, hey, and then them taking it, like people just don't get that. YouTube, the side of things that I can get into, none of us were prepared for this YouTube. Like if you think the like celebrity or famous route of people, they get training and stuff on that. Like it's a beautiful thing that
Rick, and you've been on the other side of like real famous people.
So, and I always said,
Ricky would know exactly what I'm.
Not exactly. I'm not famous, but I was. I've been on the sidelines of. I always thought when I was.
Can we talk about this just for Ricky used to be with Lil Wayne?
Yes, and the whole
people
time
normally think we're lying when we say that. But
no.
The whole time I was with him, I would always observe. He never, to you staying in the trailer, he never left a hotel room. We would go around the world. He never left the tour bus or the hotel room because of that overwhelm. And he's been famous since he was 12. It's just not human nature to always be praised, and
Yes.
So I always said I got to enjoy his fame more than he did. Like I would get to go walk around these like in the streets when we go to Barcelona or the Middle East. Like he didn't get to enjoy those things. So when I say from my seat, like I have not sympathy, but I have more of an understanding. But to the everyday person, and it's not talking down or saying less than, but like you are their entertainment. So it's like I want access to you. Maybe they don't all subconsciously think it, but it's like, you owe me this. I watch you every day. You like, or for Wayne, I'll pick on him. Like, you owe me this. I support you. I come to your concert. I paid $300.
You wouldn't have nothing if it wasn't for us.
Yeah. And
there's some truth to that.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's unfortunate that anyone could listen to this. And like I said, I think it would be overwhelmingly positive, but that they could take it like, that you're saying anything negative, and that's just not the case at all. It's like, Wayne, to keep picking on him, he would say at the beginning of every single show, "I'm not shit without you." That was his line. Like, and there's 100% fact, but that doesn't mean when he's trying to use the restroom in public that he owes you a signature or a photo. It's like people have a hard time separating that, and so now YouTube creates that for everyday normal people. Right. Wayne, he wanted to be a rock star. Like he asked for that. You guys just lived your life. You are still living your lives, and like this has been put on you, and it's like it's a beautiful thing. It's awesome that everyday people, because of a platform like YouTube, it can happen, but it's like that's a tough thing to digest and navigate.
I mean, we put it on ourselves
for sure, but
honestly, I had no idea.
And that's kind of the point that I was trying to harp at, is like, to use the Wayne example, like he knew if he's going to be a rock star or whatever, not rock, rapper. But a rapper, you already kind of see what that's going to look like. If you make it, you kind of know.
Believe it or not, I love that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. A funny story. Wayne's one of those polarizing figures. Like he's a person that I feel like everyone knows, and or at least knows of. And Jason was super convinced. He's like, "Nah, I don't think my dad. I think." I
was like, "There's no way." I
think Ronnie was probably like 78 or 79 at this time. And I was like, "I guarantee you he knows." And he called him up real quick. And Jason's like, "Hey, do you know who Lil Wayne is?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's got all those tattoos and the long hair. He does that.
He's that a rapper."
Right? And like, so yeah, that's cool to hear that you're a fan or you like him to some degree.
I'm a fan of him. It's not necessarily his music.
Yeah,
it's where
his stance on things. Yeah. And he has a good perspective on those things because of his being saved by, a police officer at a young age.
Yep.
And yeah,
Yep.
so yeah, that's interesting to hear that.
Yeah, that was my introduction to him, actually,
Yeah.
was watching him tell that story
Yeah.
on an Instagram reel.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just stumbled across it. Like, this is Lil Wayne? This?
Yeah, I've always, like, when we talk about, like, that time in Rick's life, not super often, but we dive into it every once in a while. And it's like, it's really interesting to hear, some of those stories. And, like, but, he was prepared for that, where I think you hit that button on YouTube to create that YouTube channel, and you're like, man, I hope this works.
Look, when I started that channel, I thought, you know what? If I can make $700 a week, I can cancel my dump truck insurance, and I can just be here and help the kids.
Yeah, we can be together.
Yeah, it wasn't, I'm going to quit
no.
everything and we're going to be able to, like, again, it's like that overnight people mentality.
Oh, no.
Like,
I
started
just
that
thought if I
simple.
can make $700 or $800 a week, and you know where that gets you, it ain't nothing.
Yeah.
But that's all I really wanted.
yeah.
That's all I wanted was $700 or $800 a week, and I can just be here and help the kids. And never in a million years thought that it would take off. I didn't know that I could edit. I didn't know that I could do any of this. I have no formal training in any of this. YouTube wasn't even a thing when I graduated high school. Nobody even
Computers
heard
barely
of it.
were.
Yeah, there was like the internet was like, what's that?
Yeah, it was the
Yeah, dial up.
Yeah.
Back when I was growing up, we still had party lines for our house phone.
It is insane how quickly culture's changed. And one thing that we don't talk about that often, but one of the reasons that we have a Ricky, like me and Ricky have been friends for a long time, and I always had dreamed of having him, but we like I don't know, I guess that would have been 2019, 2018, we got approached by like a production company to do a TV show here.
Really?
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we filmed for a whole year. It was pretty wild. Like we did, that's why Brad and I at the time, we raced NMCA, we raced Mike Farmer's Bad Penny car. So the whole premise of it was they knew, because TV people, they study everything, right? Like they really look into stuff. And at the time in like 2018, when they approached us, they knew that Street Outlaws was doing super well, right? But to your point, to the Street Race Channel point, there was so much stuff that was happening in between that nobody was catching. So they're like, we need to find people that race that are willing to show us what it takes to actually get to the racetrack. Mm-hmm. And then we'll film the racing too, but we need to know what it takes.
They want the behind the scenes.
Exactly. So that was their pitch to us, and I'm just simplifying the thing. But then then COVID had happened, and then we picked up. I guess that would have been in 21. We filmed the whole season with them. So they came here. They went to every NMCA race with us. We had a film crew with us everywhere we went. We're mic'd up. It was us. Dave Fiskus was with us. My buddy Martin Conley. So we all traveled in this group, and it was a fantastic experience. It was really fun. And they were just a day late and a dollar short because YouTube, really was starting to take over. And now people get that same thing with you, right? Like, or any of the channels that are out there. Like, YouTube has successfully killed reality TV because reality TV is on YouTube. And now you're not paying for a producer. You're not paying all these things. Like, everywhere we went, the producer was with us and at least 2 camera guys. Sometimes there was just, sometimes there's just 1 camera guy, but typically 2. We went to this one race in Atlanta. They hired 2 camera guys to come. They bring this van that is full of equipment. I mean, I'm talking full, Bill. Like, they put the dude on the starting line with the thing that goes back and forth, like old school big movie camera. They got all these lights plus more. And like, it's a freaking production. And like, now you're doing that off your iPhone.
and getting hundreds of thousands, like network numbers, and you're probably closing yourself off in a closet to do voiceovers. Like
it's insane.
Like, it's a
when
beautiful
you really
thing.
Think about
it's
it.
so tight. But
Ricky, you
Could've
would
never
laugh if you saw how I do voiceovers.
do you close yourself off in a closet or a small space, or you just? I mean, because the quality is good. Like the voiceover,
it sounds.
it sounds good.
No, I've figured out a way to stack pillows on a bed in our spare bedroom.
Hey, that's all it takes.
Right.
You're being conscious though of not letting reverb and bouncing around.
Yeah.
That's smart.
I don't know. It's just funny. Like, I think like COVID did a lot of stuff, but I think one of the things that really did do was rapidly kill stuff that was on its way out.
Yeah.
I think if, this is all just theory, but like if COVID wouldn't have happened, I think that we might have had like a network thing happen. But by the time all that was said and done, we filmed for the year, and that all that footage is with somebody that Ricky knows more about probably than I do, but that's why we brought Ricky on, was like, if there's a TV company that's I don't know how much money they spent that year, but it was quite a lot.
Substantial.
And if they're willing to invest that much in this, why are we not willing, to have a person like Ricky? Like, that's insane. So it was.
If you remember, when COVID happened, that's when we filmed those short.
All the movies. Yeah, those are cool.
Those are really cool. Yeah.
And the first was The American Ride. It was just a short, almost like a music video more than anything. And during the times when Billy and I were riding a dump truck, job to job, we'd talk about anything and everything, and it was a great time because it was we'd get to talk to each other. We get to spend time with each other and uninterrupted, which we don't get that anymore. But one of the things he'd always said was, I'd like to do a short film or a movie or something like that. And I think we can do it. And we would bounce ideas back and forth. And, honestly, the main reason that the first short film happened was, that was when Molly had first started coming around. She was part of our family. And I was really trying to help her guide her, I guess, and show her that you don't have to put yourself out there in a way that that maybe like what she had been doing at the time. But I wanted her to learn that you can do positive things and become known for doing positive things. Like, you can do something different than what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And that was totally different. It was a 50s or 60s vibe with that old music and the 55 Chevy, and it did really well. But I was just, when COVID happened and that whole thing was going on, we were just trying to help guide her a little bit. And, but that's how that happened, That's literally why that happened.
That's cool. I did like that. And what was the guy that was your buddy that played the cop?
Yeah.
He's cool, man.
Yeah,
I love that your video I guess it's probably a month or two ago.
Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah, that's cool.
He's awesome. He is awesome. I love that guy. He's been struggling. He got cancer after that was filmed, and he was in a really rough spot for a while. And he just showed up magically one day, and I'm back.
Yeah. I feel good. Yeah.
Yeah. Todd is his name.
That's cool. Well, all right. You got any closing thoughts, stuff you want to leave us with?
Yeah, we need to get out of here, man. It's almost 2 hours. We were going to do this for an hour.
Yeah, we're a little.
And we haven't even touched on.
I know. We'll have to do a part 2, 3, 4.
Oh God. Maybe when I come back, get the car, we'll do another one.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
We'll see how this one goes, and see what the comments are, and see what people remember, and maybe they'll leave some comments on your video and just say, hey man, I remember when they did this, and let's talk about that, or I don't know. There's been, there's so much.
Well, my
There's so
biggest
much.
thing with podcasts, and it's not just with you or just with anyone, is I want people to see other people's humanity, right? Like, and I think, and to your point, like you wanted to show the behind the scenes of the Street Race channel. You wanted to show what it took to get the car to the track, that's, and obviously it's expanded from that, but that was your original
Honestly,
thing.
I don't even hardly show anything of the kids on my channel anymore.
Yeah, it's just
I'm kind of doing my own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But my thing is what I want to show the behind the scenes of the people, right? Like that you do, like the things that you actually think about, the things that make your humanity, and I think that's a lot of what people miss on that YouTube side of stuff is like, like I have bad days, like I'm not happy all the time. Like I have stuff that happens in
human.
I am human, right? Like I think people really need to understand that, and that there's healing that can come from that, of like, man, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I do these things, but like if I choose that I want to work on myself, there's positive things that can happen from that, and
my channel started out as behind the scenes of the kids.
yeah.
And obviously that was a way for me to get started. But what I really wanted to do was I wanted to show the kids that content is valuable. Because, like I said back in the beginning, I don't think Billy really wanted to show family or behind the scenes. Like, I don't think maybe he didn't feel that was cool, or I don't know.
Well, if you look at the 1320 blueprint,
they probably weren't showing that.
No, even the 1320 guys now, like they're a little bit more on the camera.
But then it was probably strictly racing.
It was all cars.
But the only thing, when I started my channel, the only thing that I felt that I had to share with the world that had any value was my family. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a race car. My Nova was just a drum brake slapper bar stock Nova that we had patched together. And if you've ever seen any of the videos of it being tore apart, you can see how bad a shape it was. But I didn't have anything to share of my own. I had put everything into my kids. And so when I started my channel, the only thing that I felt that I had to share with the world that had any value was my family. And like I said, when Billy was younger, you're 20 years old, you don't really want to show your family or your mom or your dad, like you get laughed at, But now I feel like people know who we are for who we are and what we are and how we are. And honestly, I think some of Billy's best videos for audience retention and CPM and everything that's important, like they can literally film shop videos because everyone has that bond with our family now. I mean, it's good and bad, but my kids don't have to go and illegally street race. They can, and people will watch that. But this is something that they can do for the rest of their lives, and they can make as much money as they want. They can put out as many videos as they want. They don't have to travel to the other side of the country and street race and drive through light poles or hit fire hydrants and do some of the things that are bound to happen. The more you do it, the chances of it happening are, this is sustainable, at least, for the foreseeable future. But, people didn't really know Vicki or I or the behind the scenes or the family aspect of it really until, my channel started. But now that people are kind of introduced to that, good and bad, I think the kids realize that, we don't have to destroy shit. We don't have to go buy a fancy Lamborghini and destroy it to make money. There's people that do that. We don't have to do stupid shit just to get attention. Like, that's flash in the pan stuff. You can get attention for a short amount of time and get a lot of views on one video, but can you get a lot of views on every video?
Yeah.
That takes time. That takes more effort. That takes a more personal connection. And that's what I was trying to show the kids and teach them.
Well, that's something that we talk about a lot is like, right now, like normally our best viewed stuff is, with you guys, like, cause we partnered with you on certain things or like when Tom comes, Jimmy Dale, and, our concern is always like, how do we create our own audience, right? Cause it's not sustainable to have you come down every week. It's not sustainable to have, we got to build our own audience, and they have to, that's a whole nother
They need
thing.
to form a connection with you.
Yeah.
And people
And Brad.
have. And people have started to. And we've recently been steady with the shop stuff, and the feedback has been really good. Like people are connecting with that.
Yeah.
So I would say for my closing thoughts, because I do have to go, you made the right choice. I think, that's sustainable. You having that vision, and obviously the boys see it now too, because they're putting out more of that type of content, something I've complimented them on. And it's cool for me to hear more of the backstory, not saying that you're taking the credit for it, but that was your vision of, you made the right call, because back to Jason's point, like you can have a Lamborghini race a Tesla as a one view and it go crazy, but you guys have created a core audience of people that know you for you, and they love you for you and your family dynamics. And now there's not one channel of it, it's all intertwined. And you guys, I mean, you couldn't have planned it any better. You could, you had, and that's what I'm saying. It was organic, and people read that and understand that and see that, and that's why you guys have the following that you have, and it's a really cool thing to see. And then I always go back to, it's a crazy thing that it can even be a thing from phones in our pockets and a third party, YouTube thing. We don't have big producers. We don't have big cameras. It's like, it's such a cool thing to see. So that's my closing thoughts. I do have to go, guys.
See you, Ricky.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
No, I think that was great. I think we learned a lot. Do you got anything to close with? Anything else?
No, I mean, I'm going to come back down and pick the car up once it's done. I don't know. Did we even tell the audience?
Oh, no, we haven't yet. Well, I think this video will probably go out after you talk about it. So,
True.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, because my video will go up in a day or so. So
yeah, because Ricky's going to be gone the month of October.
Yeah.
So he's going to save this to post during October. But yeah, we've actually got away from, we did 1 year of podcast every other Tuesday. And like we saw some growth there, but the thing is people weren't getting as connected to us. Like they wanted to see more shop stuff. And with Rick being here only a couple days a week, we're taking his time to film, do more stuff in the shop, which I think is a
because I watched the last video and in fact I commented on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
No, we're figuring it out. We're fumbling and bumbling through it.
Dude, he's doing really good. Ricky is such a good editor.
He is. He's really good. Yeah,
he's so good.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss him when he's gone in October. So you guys, your videos in October are gonna be edited by me. I'll probably call Bill for like, hey, how do I do this? Like, so yeah, I'm gonna be fumbling and bumbling through it. But
thank you for the opportunity to come down, because nobody's ever had me on a podcast. Probably everybody's scared. I know the kids are scared to death what I have to say. and I'm not being facetious. I'm telling you, I had to prepare myself to finally do this and not put people on blast, because there's so much that goes on, and it kills me, but it's not worth it. And I'm trying to do better,
No, and I can tell, man, like the thing that I think about all the time is, the platform really matters, and what you do with your platform really matters. Like you're either building life up or you're tearing it down, and like I personally, I want to be a builder, like I want to add value to whatever community I'm in. And I think that's the stuff that sustains, that's the stuff that's going to be here when we're gone.
You know what I've learned is the world has a mysterious way of cleansing itself.
Yeah.
Without me saying or doing anything.
Yeah.
It has a way of working itself out. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. And so, yeah. But I've learned that from you.
I don't know about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
I appreciate you, man.
No, I appreciate you too.
Thank you for everything you do for the racing community.
You're welcome. It's a fun ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we have little boys that
Yeah.
and little girls that
Yeah.
want to make sure that's here for. So,
Yeah.
but we appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. This was a longer one, so if you made it to the end,
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll probably do it again, and we'll have some update videos of the Malibu as well. So we're gonna throw a roll cage in it, well, 6-point, and yeah, you'll get some updates from us, and I'm sure you get some updates from Bill. But as always, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you later.